This is a little treat that I've made for myself for my home workstation. Ergonomic wrist rest for my trackpad. And I love using the trackpad because I like using all the gestures that you can use with it, and it's very familiar because when I use my laptop, it's just like the touchpad. But I've never liked, when I use the trackpad, the angle of my wrist. I have to bend my wrist up a little bit, and sometimes I get a little discomfort and pain on the back of my wrist, and I also wonder about if I do any sort of long-term damage to my wrist by having it in this position and using it a lot. One little tip I've learned is when I'm not actively using the trackpad, I'm just sitting there reading something, I've learned to just rest my fingers on the trackpad just to not have that tension there. And only when I'm actively using the trackpad do I actually lift my wrist up. Anyways, I've always wanted to have my wrist at a straighter angle. So I started out with a block of wood that I had sanded a little saddle into right here, and I just used that for a little while. Then I realized I didn't like how, the angle of how it slopes down, and I wanted to flatten out the trackpad a little, so then I added this other piece of wood underneath it. So I wound up with a more comfortable design, and it flattens out the trackpad. And then I sanded this down nicely and put some nice stain on it to give it a nice honey color. I'm working on another version of it with the gel pad that I got. I've just attached this with tape for now for this prototype, and I've been using this. The one thing I didn't like about this one is the little ledge is a little too short. While I'm using it, it puts my fingers up towards the top of the trackpad. I actually would rather have the trackpad a little more like that, so when my fingers are kind of naturally in the middle. So for this version of it, I've made the lip deeper, and this is still a work in progress. I still haven't sanded it down or finished all the cuts, but I'll be able to set this a little bit farther out. While I've been using this, though, I've realized that I actually want my wrist another little, maybe 1/4 inch higher. So I'm going to add another little piece of wood that'll do two things. It'll lift this a 1/4 inch higher, and then I'm going to have a lip right here so that it naturally just I'll put the trackpad on and it'll just kind of naturally stop. That lip will naturally stop the trackpad right where I want for my fingers to be in the middle of it naturally. So, little treat for myself that I did for my home workstation, and a little exercise in iterative design.